Today let's talk gear I thought would work for me, but I switched it out. Hey, what's up guys? My name is Dan. I love backpacking, I love hiking, I love gear. I'm a gear nerd, and if you like that kind of stuff too, consider subscribing, consider hitting that like button. Stick around for a little bit as we talk through some of this stuff. So, as the year progressed and as I began to just, kind of go through my gear and take inventory and just, constantly look and see what's working, what's not working, what could I get that's better, what could I get that's lighter, what could I get if it's not lighter, how could it benefit me in another way that's more efficient for me. I started to research and do a lot of things, and so started out kind of swapping out some gear that I really wanted to have work. And you spend money on it and you take it out on the trail, but when you get back you're like, man, it's just not what I thought it was going to do. So the first thing that I switched out was my Sawyer Mini. This thing is great. It's a good filter. It does what it's supposed to do, which is not get you sick when you're drinking water, right? You want to make sure the water's clean out there on the trail. You want to make sure that you have good, clean water. But the problem with this is that the flow rate on it isn't great. So it takes some time to filter some water. And when you're in a hurry, and you know what I'm talking about, you're hungry, right? You're thirsty. You need to get that mountain house meal made. Not only do you got to find a water source, but you got to filter the water source, and then you got to, pick out your food, make it. It takes 8 to 10 minutes for that thing to cook and get ready, right? So this just took a little while. It took a little bit too long for me. So I swapped it out for the Sawyer Squeeze. This is great. I mean, the difference between the two is phenomenal. You can search flow rates for these things online, and guys have done some pretty crazy testing on this. But I'll tell you, this feels more like water coming out of the faucet in your house, filling up a pot for your stove, than it does for the trickle of the regular Sawyer. So this was great. This was a huge, huge plus. The downside to this is that it's a little bit heavier. It's about twice as heavy. But for 3 ounces total-ish, about what the weight is, and I'll throw the weights for this stuff up on the screen, this is still a great option. And it was a definite win for me this year. This next item, you guys are going to probably be like, oh man, what? Of course, I'd probably switch that out too, but man, I wanted this to work, and this is a popular gear item on the trail. A lot of you guys use this. A lot of you guys love these things, but I swapped out Ziploc baggies. These things are gone. These really are a great item when you're trying to lose weight out of your pack fast. They're a great item to keep things dry easily. I mean, they zip up, nothing's getting wet inside there. Until you start taking it in and out of your bag, it just doesn't. So this is what happens. This is an actual bag that I used for my Dirty Bag, and it just starts to rip down the corners. And after that, it becomes almost pointless. It doesn't serve the purpose that I need it to do, which is keep things dry. I mean, it'll still keep things somewhat organized, but as this thing goes on and it starts to rip down the side, stuff falls out of your pack, this is gone. So what did I switch to? Well, this might surprise you, but I switched to a Z-Packs hip belt pouch. Now, why did I do that? Well, it wasn't because I thought the hip belt pouch would make a great ditty bag. It's because my hip belt pouch that I had on my Z-Packs backpack started to rip at the seams. And so I emailed Z-Packs, and they sent me out a brand new hip belt pocket. So now I got 3 of them. Well, what am I going to do with 3? Well, I kept the one that had the little bit of a seam ripped out on it, and I fixed it, and now I use it as my ditty bag. This thing's great. Super waterproof zipper. Everything I need fits inside. It's great. It became my new ditty bag. Another gear item I swapped out was my Sawyer Dirty Bag. This is a great dirty bag to start out with. It holds 2 liters of water, this particular one. I think when you buy it, you can get it in different size liter bags, but depending on which system you buy. But the problem with this is that when you get into shallow water, this hole here really doesn't fill up the water quickly or very well. So it takes a lot of effort to get this thing full, which again, I wanted to have a quicker, faster filtering experience in order to get back on the trail quickly or to eat quickly, and this bag just didn't do it for me. So I swapped it out and I went to the NOC Vector. This thing is great. What I love about it most is that this top part just slides right off, and it's got this opening at the top. That is huge. And I love it because you can take this thing and you can scoop, even in shallow water sources, you can get down nice and easy, scoop that water, and this thing fills up almost instantly. If you get to a good flowing lake or a good flowing river, or just even standing water that's you know, about a foot deep or 2 feet deep, you can put this thing down, pull it up. It's like putting a bucket in the water. You're done. You don't have to worry about it. And then you just fold this top part back on here, and you take this little slide, you slide it back on here, and that's it. It also works as a gravity filter, and that's what I love about it as well. So you can just filter this thing, you can attach it to your Sawyer Squeeze, and you can let gravity do the work. The last gear item I switched out was my beloved Toaks 550 milliliter titanium pot. This is probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular pot out on the trail. It is great. But the problem with this one is that the capacity is just a little bit too small for me. And I also have the older version, which didn't have the water markings, the measurements on it as well. So I had to kind of take a knife and scrape some markings on the inside there so that you can, you know, kind of tell where the water levels are, so I know how much water I'm putting into, you know, to my Mountain House meals or Packet Gourmet or whatever you're using. But this is a good pot. It's just a little bit too small, and you can tell it's got a lot of miles on it. What did I switch to? Well, I switched to something that could help me with a little bit more capacity. One, because I like to have coffee and a warm breakfast in the morning, and also because I go hiking with my kids, my wife, sometimes a friend will come with me who doesn't maybe backpack often and they don't have a whole lot of gear, so I bring some of the gear for them. And what I switched to was this Evernew titanium pasta pot. This thing is great. It's almost as light as the 550 milliliter Toaks pot, but you get twice the capacity out of it. And not only that, but you can strain water on it. This lid snaps tight, and you can strain out of the Toaks too, but there's not very many holes. It takes a little bit of work. But this one's built for straining. It's got several holes on here. You can strain it real easy. The lid stays on nice and tight. And there were some complaints I found online of some guys that couldn't get this lid off very easily. They're like, man, this thing doesn't come off very easily, and how do you get it off? You might be spilling the boiling water. Well, let me tell you how to get this thing off very easily. It's actually designed to work this way. Is you take your finger back between these two handles here, and you just lift up on it, and watch this. It just pops right off. It's pretty neat. But then also it has these silicone handles, so I don't have to worry about burning my hands, and it's got every marking that I need. One more really cool thing about this pot is its wide base. So because it's got a wide base, it's going to cook more evenly and more efficient because that heat is going to hit the bottom of the pot as much as possible. So this was one item I switched to this year. So those are just some of the items that I swapped out this year while I was out on the trail. What are some of the things that you bought that you spent all that money on that just didn't work for you or just didn't do the job you thought it was going to do for you? Let us know down in the comments below. Also, hit that like button if you like this video and subscribe for more. We'll catch you on the next one.